1.8 billion in worldwide ticket sales. Ticket sales records broken across the globe. Critical reception that any veteran Hollywood star would die for. I am speaking, of course, of Spider-Man: No Way Home. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the review desk with Paul Vanderbilt, your host, where we will discuss this juggernaut of a film that, in spite of an ongoing pandemic, managed to rake in what could definitely be called a successful haul. Welcome, Desmond. How are you doing? Very excited to talk about this movie. Yes, I can see. Are you, yourself, a big Spider-Man fan? I mean, who isn't? He is the most fun superhero ever. Definitely the most relatable superhero ever. So, yeah, I'm very excited to be talking about this film. Now, as I understood, you are, like many other viewers of this film, you're one of the people who has seen both the Tobey Maguire films and the Andrew Garfield films. How does Mr. Holland's performance rate across these three? To be honest, when it comes to No Way Home, everybody does such a good job that I feel it would be a disservice to pick a favorite. Even as someone who has seen the Tobey Maguire films first, and then the Andrew Garfield films, and then the Tom Holland films, it would really feel as a disservice to just pick one. Yes, indeed. Now, Desmond, tell us what it was that you loved mostly about this film. What I loved about this film was it lived up to the hype. I love the fact that they didn't reveal that Tobey and Andrew were featured in it. I love the fact that it was more or less a surprise. Sure, if you're somebody who followed the news or saw some spoilers, you might have seen some set photos or fan theories. But genuinely not knowing going in, it was a huge surprise and a huge success. It was also very smart to reveal Andrew before they revealed Tobey. Because, again, I'm not saying that anybody's better than anybody else, but Tobey is the OG movie screen live feature Spider-Man, right? Had they done Tobey first and then Andrew, I do think it would have worked, but it would have felt a bit anticlimactic. So again, it was very smart to do Andrew first, because then you're building up anticipation, like, oh, Andrew's here. Are they going to do Tobey? Or is it just Andrew, they're going to throw us off, and then Tobey shows up, and it is very brilliant. What else I loved about this film? The performances were great. The follow-up to Far From Home was great. They didn't just sweep everything under the rug. I do think the legal issues were could have been handled a little better, because we didn't see anything about the videotape being denounced as fake or anything. But performance is great. We got to see Daredevil in the film, in his superhero identity, Matt Murdock anyway. So, very well put together. I can tell personally, I feel that Marvel had a bit more control over this one than Sony, because I feel like Sony still hasn't really, after the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, they haven't really found that good balance yet. But yeah, the film was great. It was great seeing the villains. Again, Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus, still, in my opinion, one of the best performances ever in a superhero film. The only time I can say that a film version of a character is superior to the comic book version. I don't know how Molina does it, but he did a fantastic job. The highlight of the film, though, in terms of performances and portrayal, for me, was Willem Dafoe. This guy steals the show in every single scene he is in. He brought his A game, honestly. Like, again, everybody all around did a good job, but when Willem Dafoe is on screen, all eyes on him. The menacing feature of the Goblin, the fact that he found a way to take that 2001 performance, that, some people complained was campy. People didn't like his suit, but he maintained that level of almost over the topness, but it worked. It worked. I love his new redesign. The suit looks fantastic, and it's a lot more menacing. Again, Willem Dafoe, absolute MVP in this movie. I love that banter between the three Peters. How did you like the fact that there were multiple Spider-Men in the film interacting with one another? Did you feel that it was a bit excessive, or did you find it to be refreshing? I absolutely loved it, especially when they interacted about seemingly trivial things. Like, that's what goes through fans' heads, and that's why I honestly think that Marvel had a bit more to do with this than Sony, because Kevin Feige is a comic book fan. He understands what goes through the minds of comic book fans. When the three Peters are up there and talking about, my webbing, I get blockage, and then I gotta make this thing, and it's expensive, and how come that stuff's coming out of you, these seem like seemingly trivial things, but these are things that we wonder. These are things as comic book fans we would love to see them discuss. So the banter between the three, absolute brilliant and one of the highlights of the films. The action sequences were very good. I love the fight between Peter 1, we'll call him, and the Green Goblin. They had to get innovative. Peter noticed that Osborn was much stronger than him. This has been stated as fact in the comics. The Green Goblin is physically stronger than Spider-Man. It might not have been that clear in the films, although I do think in the first Sam Raimi film, the Goblin says to Peter, "I could squash you like a bug." The Green Goblin is superior in strength to Spider-Man, and also the fact that Tobey is in his high school days. He's not a fully grown adult like Tobey or Andrew. I do think his strength is not yet at their level. He realized very quickly that the Goblin is too strong for him, and he had to get innovative. The way he shoots his webbing to the ground, sticks to the wall, to the roof, to the ceiling, and then comes down with full force, building up momentum, that was brilliant. I also love the fact that Peter, his body was kind of evading Doctor Strange. That really is a very subtle nod to his spider sense. The great J.K. Simmons did a wonderful job. Happy was surprisingly refreshing. Doctor Strange, absolutely wonderful. The performances were great all around. Yes, we can tell that you absolutely loved this film. Now, for the hard part. Obviously, there were some things that could have been improved upon, or perhaps not. Would you like to talk about things that you did not particularly like in the film? Unfortunately, yes, there were a number of things that I didn't like. I didn't feel Aunt May had to die. And the fact that she says, with great power comes great responsibility, it felt unearned. Like, what is her motivation to say that? We understand that she keeps saying to Peter, you have to see the good in people and do the right thing. But she never leaned towards, with great power comes great responsibility. And to be honest, if Peter was really being responsible based on the information that he was given by Doctor Strange, the responsible thing to do would be to send these villains back to their original realities and not keep them hanging around in an experiment to rehabilitate them. Which, on one hand, if they're going back to die anyway, does it matter? I don't know if they die after they got rehabilitated. I don't know if Sony's going to expand on that in the multiverse. But if they die anyway, what's the point of rehabilitating them? Maybe I need to see the movie again. Maybe I missed that part where if they're rehabilitated, they survive. Or Strange returns them to a point in time where they don't die. Peter did seem a bit naive when it comes to that, but again, he's still a high school student. He's still learning, but on the other hand, he should have learned from his experiences with Mysterio. So I didn't particularly like the fact that regardless of the consequences, he felt the need to stand up for the villains. The film, because of this, also can feel a little drawn out at times. I know you don't want to start with Tobey and Andrew, but yeah, it feels a bit lengthy in the second act. It's not until the third act that it really starts to pick up. Because the whole MIT thing, obviously there are a couple of issues like Flash having a book published about him and Spider-Man a day or two after Peter's identity was revealed, that is not realistic at all. It's a nice gag, but it falls kind of flat based on the fact that it's impossible. And I'm willing to suspend my disbelief that a guy can clean the walls, but a book being published in one day, re-edited, edited, proofread, published, put in stores, no. I would have believed it more if he said he's writing a book and is in the midst of publishing it, so people should watch out. But even then, especially in the time we live in, where everything needs to be instant, I think by the time the book came out, the fad would have died down.
Now, you said that the performances of especially Mr. Defoe made an impression on you. Any other performances that you would like to highlight?
Well, allow me to say this. Andrew Garfield, if by some miracle you happen to hear this, I apologize. I apologize for all the bad things I said about you for Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. I apologize, sir. You have earned the respect and the love of comic book fans, especially Spider-Man fans, everywhere. It has become more than apparent after your performance in No Way Home that it's not you. You were not the problem. The problem was the material you were given to work with. So again, I am very sorry. All the bad things that I said about your performance, you are an amazing Spider-Man. Pun intended. I agree wholeheartedly with Peter 1 and Peter 2. Yes, you deserve better. And honestly, if Sony were to say we're making Amazing Spider-Man 3, I would support that project 100%. I would love to see you as Spider-Man. And I am sorry that I trash talked you like that. You deserve better. I'm sorry.
Well, if by some miracle Mr. Garfield happens to hear that, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below so that Desmond knows that his words have reached you in good fortune. Much has been said of the box office returns that this film has drawn. In the midst of a pandemic, it has made over $1.8 billion worldwide. It came down to almost $1.9 billion, shy of $7 million. How does this make you feel that a film achieved this much success?
There are a lot of things that I dislike about COVID, but honestly, I really dislike it that we will never know how much this film would have made if it weren't for COVID. Keep in mind that December, when this film came out, a lot of theaters worldwide were still operating at 50% capacity. A lot of theaters were still closed. I know that in Europe, a lot of theaters were closed. A lot of theaters were closed in South America. It's a shame that we'll never know. It might have reached endgame potentials. Maybe not. Maybe it would have reached, but it definitely would have reached 2 billion. I definitely believe it would have reached 2 billion. I am glad that in spite of the pandemic, people showed up to show love to this movie. It's also a clear sign that despite what some critics are saying, no, the superhero franchise is not dead. Not just based on the box office returns, but the critical reception amongst both viewers and critics says to me that we got a long way to go. There's still a lot of story to tell. There's still a lot of quality stuff out there. So it's amazing. It's amazing that in spite of this, the movie was so successful, and I'm very happy for it.
Very happy indeed. I'm sure the producers are happy about this as well. I hope Mr. Holland, Mr. Garfield, and Mr. Maguire are being shown the proper appreciation for bringing so many fans together in the world of cinema. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our take today on Spider-Man No Way Home. We will see you next time on the review desk. Until then, goodbye and good fortune.